Hey everyone, this is going to be my spoiler review for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So if you haven't seen it yet, and you probably have because it's been like 2-3 weeks since this movie came out and I just saw it last Friday, leave now if you don't want to be spoiled. Also make sure you subscribe for future Marvel videos on this channel. So what do I think about this movie? Did I like it? Did I hate it? No, I straight up loved it. It's like almost flawless. There's only like one or two things that I didn't like, but that's it. It's really small, but everything else was amazing. It currently has like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that is very, very accurate. So first, I just want to say that this movie like really felt like a comic book, like an actual comic book. The characters themselves had like a little texture on them, animation wise. I don't know how to like describe it, but it looked like they just came to life from print. And that detail alone is just so amazing. But also they do like the other comic book conventions. They do the thought bubbles. They do some like wows and other screams of excitement here and there. I don't think there was any like pows or anything like that. But like maybe I wasn't paying attention. But mostly I just saw thought bubbles and other types of like things that you would see in a comic book. And you know, that was just like a really like nice detail to this movie, and everything else animation wise was phenomenal. The writing for this movie and Miles' story arc was really great as well. First, I love how each of the Spider-Man backstories were like told, because obviously not everyone is going to know their origin story. I for one didn't know Penny Parker's origin or Spider-Gwen's origin or any of the other Spider-Men. The only ones I knew was Peter Parker obviously and Miles Morales to some degree. Peter's origin from both Miles' dimension and the older Peter Parker that we see later on were the longest because of how big their role was in the movie. Even though blonde Peter died in the movie, he still had an impact on Miles because he admires Spider-Man. And when he died, keep in mind that he watched him die. That devastated him because that was his hero and it shook him to his core. Meanwhile, Gwen's backstory was a little detailed as well because her role in the movie was pretty big, but by the time you got to like Spider-Noir and Spider-Ham and Penny Parker, it was a lot shorter because by the time they came into the movie, it was like almost the end of the second act. So they didn't need that much exposition into their past, but we do find out who they lost during a scene in Miles' dorm room. So there is room for depth for those other Spider-Men or Spider-People. Going into Miles' story arc, it was very well structured and there were a lot of high emotional points revolving around Miles. The gist of his arc is that he got into this boarding school. He doesn't want to go there. His father's all like, well, you don't have a choice, which is a huge theme throughout the movie. And all throughout the movie, he's trying to figure out who he wants to be because his parents expect him to be this model student and he just wants to be like a normal kid who goes to a normal school. He gets bit by the radioactive spider, doesn't have a choice in that moment. Now he has to live with these abilities and choose what he's going to do with them. He learns how to use his powers with the help from the older Peter Parker, all while trying to destroy the super collider. And again, he falls short of becoming the hero that all the other spider people want him to be or expect him to be. That's where the moment where Peter webs him to a chair comes in because they believe that he's not ready. Then that talk with his dad behind his dorm room door serves as a key of motivation for Miles because his dad sees a spark in him. As he said, there's something special about him and he's very proud of that. He gets out of the webbing, spray paints one of Peter Parker's suits, and discovers a new sense of confidence that's going to enable him to do the job that needs to be done, which is destroy the super collider. I haven't even mentioned the part where his uncle died, and he had to watch him die too. That was a really, really powerful scene, and they did a good job of setting up that Miles and Aaron have a special bond with their talk in his apartment about girls, and then moving on to spray painting that wall in that abandoned train station. It was very believable that Aaron meant the world to Miles, and when he died, it was really heart-wrenching. I think I teared up during that moment, and I'm very proud of that because it was very much a tearjerker. I also want to talk a little bit about Kingpin because he was pretty developed in this movie as well in the limited amount of screen time that he actually had. And they don't do a lot to give him depth. There's just like one scene that tells you everything, and there's like there is some dialogue, but it's basically a montage, so it's not like a very detailed scene. It's like a quick like 2-3 minute scene that explains why he's doing what he's doing. So it's a flashback to the night that Vanessa and his kid left him because they discovered that he's a criminal. That's his motivation for getting the Super Collider online. He wants to find another version of his wife and kid in the multiverse to put his family back together. So they did a really good job of making the plot feel a bit grounded. It's not about Fisk trying to converge the multiverse into one Earth or even destroy the entire multiverse. He's using this device that has the potential to destroy their world and all the other worlds in the multiverse just to bring his family back. And I'm gonna be honest, this was a better arc than Ocean Masters in Aquaman and in a lot of other Marvel and DC movies. So props to them. The humor in this movie was really good as well. I think all the jokes landed. The only problem I had is that when all the spider people were in Miles' room and they had that emotional moment talking about who they lost, it then goes to like a humorous moment when Miles' roommate walks in and they're all hiding from him on top of the ceiling, and then he later passes out because he sees a talking pig. That moment sort of crushed the emotional moment that happened before this, so I think it would have been better if this humorous moment was placed somewhere else or if it wasn't there altogether. The soundtrack to this movie is also amazing. It's like Black Panther soundtrack level good. I don't want to say that it's better than the entire Black Panther album because I am biased towards Kendrick Lamar, but I will say that there are a few songs on the Spider-Verse album that are better than some songs on the Black Panther album. And also the score is really great as well. I haven't listened to like the entire thing, but the ones that I have listened to after I saw the movie and then also during when I was watching the movie, they were really great. The small tributes to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko were really great as well. I got chills just seeing that because it's so hard to believe that they're gone forever now, but nevertheless, their work still lives on. I even got a little emotional during the Stan Lee cameo. This scene was animated and put together before he died, obviously, but it still felt really impactful to the audience after like he had died because it came when the blonde Spider-Man died in Miles' universe and he gave Miles a little pep talk that like sort of translated to the audience as well. So it was really surreal how his cameo like worked like that now that Stan is dead. And then the post-credit scene with Spider-Man 2099 and then the 1967 Spider-Man pointing meme was also really hilarious. That scene got spoiled for me when the movie first came out like weeks ago, but by the time I saw the movie last Friday, I totally forgot about it, so it caught me by surprise, and I'm really glad that I did forget about it because I wasn't expecting it. Even though I'd already seen it, I just had forgotten about it. There's one thing I want to nitpick, and that's when Gwen was at the lab and later rescues Miles and Peter. I don't recall Gwen giving a reason for why she was even at the lab in the first place. There's a moment where Miles runs into Gwen at the lab, but Miles doesn't notice her. So it's not like she randomly appeared in the forest out of nowhere to save them. She was already there. The movie just didn't give an explanation as to why she was there at the lab in the first place. And I probably have missed something. I probably missed like an explanation from Gwen as to why she was there. But if I didn't, that's another thing that I would ding this movie for. But again, it's a really small like nitpick. So overall, this was a really, really good movie. Very detailed, very beautiful in the writing and the animation. I walked out of it wanting to see it again and wanting a sequel. Although I do want Sony to take their time and develop a just as good story if they go into the sequel route. And I'm expecting them to go in that route. Again, I just saw this movie on last Friday, and those 2 weeks that I didn't see the movie, I was hearing really good things about this movie, which is good, but I wasn't expecting this movie to be like that good. You know, everyone was hyping it up to the point from the outside looking in, it looked like it was getting overhyped, but now after watching the movie, I get the hype. Like, I get why everyone is saying the things that they're saying. I understand where everyone is coming from. I do think that this is one of the best Spider-Man movies, maybe top 3 for me. It definitely earns a spot with all of the other live-action Spider-Man movies. Like, that's how good this movie is. So that's it for this video, but here's my question for you guys. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Leave them down in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for future Marvel videos. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and other than that, my name is Jobi-Wan Kenobi. May the Force be with you, and have a marvelous day from the LA to the DC.